Lovecraftian mythos. The universe doesn't hate you. It doesn't even know you exist. In the Lovecraftian cosmos, reality is layered like an onion, with our familiar world merely the thinnest outer skin. Beneath lie dimensions and entities so vast and alien that human minds snap like twigs when confronted with them. The great old ones, Cthulhu, Yog-Sothoth, Azathoth, aren't evil gods. They're cosmic forces operating beyond morality, beyond comprehension. The true horror lies not in monsters jumping from shadows, but in the revelation that everything humanity has achieved, our art, science, philosophy, is meaningless noise in an indifferent universe. The stars don't care about your suffering. The depths don't echo with your screams. The void doesn't remember your name. Those who glimpse these truths don't return with power but with madness. They've seen the mathematics that break minds, heard languages that make tongues bleed, and understood that humanity isn't the protagonist of reality's story. We're barely a footnote. What makes this universe truly terrifying isn't the threat of death, but the certainty that understanding is worse than ignorance. The deeper you dig, the more your sanity frays. The more you learn, the closer you come to wishing you could unlearn it all. The backrooms. One misstep, one moment of imbalance, 1 second where you clip through what you thought was solid ground, and suddenly you're somewhere else. The backrooms represent our collective nightmare of liminal spaces, those transitional areas we pass through without thought. Empty office corridors, abandoned malls, vacant hotel hallways. But here, these spaces extend forever. Endless yellow walls, buzzing fluorescent lights that never turn off. Moist carpet that squelches underfoot, the air thick with the scent of aged paper and mildew. What makes the backrooms uniquely disturbing is its mundanity. There are no tentacled horrors here, at first, just the crushing sameness of corporate anonymity stretched into infinity. Time loses meaning as you wander rooms that seem designed by algorithms rather than architects. Identical corridors that somehow never connect the same way twice. The true terror creeps in gradually. The distant sounds of footsteps when you're alone. The shadows that move differently than they should. The growing certainty that something else is here, hunting through these impossible spaces. But the most profound horror comes with the realization that the longer you stay, the more you belong. The outside world feels increasingly like a dream you once had. Your memories grow fuzzy while the yellow hallways become sharper, more real. Your identity dissolves into the monotony until you can't remember why you wanted to leave in the first place. In the backrooms, the monster isn't what finds you, it's what you become. Annihilation, the Shimmer. Past the shimmering barrier lies what scientists call environmental psychosis, a zone where the fundamental rules of biology have been rewritten. Trees shaped like people, flowers that grow in patterns that shouldn't be possible, creatures that shouldn't exist, made from genetic collages of multiple species. The Shimmer doesn't destroy, it transforms. It takes what exists and recombines it, creating beauty and horror in equal measure. Crystal trees, fungal human remains that bloom like gardens, deer with flowering branches for antlers. What makes this universe uniquely terrifying is that it doesn't hate you. It simply absorbs you, cell by cell, thought by thought. Your DNA unravels and reknits with the plants you touch, the animals you encounter, even the companions beside you. Your memories blur with theirs. Your identity dissolves not into nothing, but into everything. The Shimmer shows us that annihilation doesn't have to mean destruction. It can mean becoming so thoroughly changed that nothing recognizable remains of who you were. The horror isn't death, but transformation so complete that the boundary between self and other becomes meaningless. Those who enter seeking answers find only questions. Those who enter whole leave fragmented or don't leave at all. And those who do return carry the Shimmer within them. Seeds of change planted in human soil, waiting to bloom. The Pale City, Little Nightmares. In the world of Little Nightmares, childhood fears are made flesh. The universe is seen through a child's eyes, everything looms impossibly large, adults are grotesque giants with distorted features, and the rules make no sense. What elevates this universe beyond simple monster stories is how it weaponizes perspective. You, small, vulnerable, powerless, must navigate spaces designed for creatures 10 times your size. Chairs tower like skyscrapers. Doorknobs sit far above your head. The simple act of crossing a room becomes a dangerous expedition. The inhabitants of this world are humanity stripped of pretense. Pure appetite and mindless consumption made manifest. The bloated guests of the maw gorging themselves at an endless feast. The long-armed janitor blindly grasping for anything that moves. The teacher, whose neck stretches unnaturally as she searches for disobedience. What makes this universe truly disturbing is the gradual recognition that this isn't some alien dimension. It's our world seen through the unfiltered perception of childhood. The monsters aren't fantasies, they're us. our worst traits magnified and our appearances distorted by fear and incomprehension. The Pale City shows us that growing up doesn't mean escaping monsters, it means realizing we've become them. XEELEE sequence. 5 billion years into a war we cannot win, against an enemy that barely notices us. This is humanity's future in Stephen Baxter's XEELEE sequence, a vast, cold universe where we achieved galactic conquest only to discover we're still insignificant. The XEELEE are entities that manipulate space-time itself as their construction material. They built a ring 10 million light-years across as an escape hatch from the universe. Meanwhile, humanity has become the interim coalition of governance, a military totalitarianism spanning 20 million stars. What makes this universe uniquely horrifying isn't the alien threats, it's what humanity did to itself. Children conscripted at birth into military service. Art, literature, and culture deliberately destroyed to focus all resources on war. Entire planetary populations converted into computronium to calculate battle strategies. We've won the galaxy but lost everything that made us human. And for what? The XEELEE barely notice our attacks. They're fighting a greater war against Fatino birds, dark matter entities gradually killing every star in the universe. We're ants attacking elephants who are themselves at war with something even larger. In this universe, the horror isn't extinction. It's surviving at such cost that extinction would have been kinder. It's the revelation that victory and defeat look identical when you've sacrificed everything worth protecting. Severance. Imagine having perfect work-life balance, not as a lifestyle choice, but as a surgical reality. In the world of Severance, employees of Lumen Industries undergo a procedure that splits their consciousness in two. Their innie, who exists only at work with no memory of outside life, and their outie, who lives in the world but has no recollection of what happens during office hours. The elevator ride between floors is a hard reset, creating two people sharing one body who will never meet. What makes this universe uniquely horrifying is how it literalizes corporate dehumanization. The innies exist only to work. They have no past, no future, just an endless present of fluorescent-lit corridors and mysterious data to sort. Their lives began as adults, in mid-sentence, on their first day at Lumen. Their only context for existence is what the company provides. The true terror emerges gradually, the realization that the innies are essentially prisoners serving life sentences for crimes they didn't commit, created by their outies, who live freely while their other self suffers in corporate purgatory. Every night they experience what feels like instantaneous teleportation to the next morning, with no rest, no dreams, no life outside office walls. The corporate environment amplifies the horror. Childish rewards for completing mysterious tasks, cultish worship of the company's founder, and the creeping suspicion that the work they're doing might be sinister in purpose. Departments are kept strictly separated. Leaving your designated area triggers contingency protocols of unsettling intensity. In Severance, the monster isn't lurking in shadows. It's the version of yourself that chose this existence for you, and the corporation that convinced them it was a good idea. The ultimate horror is the revelation that someone who shares your face, your body, and half your mind has condemned you to a life of corporate servitude with no possibility of parole. The Nightland. Millions of years in the future, the sun has died. Earth spins in eternal darkness under a sky without stars. The last remnant of humanity lives within the last redoubt, a metal pyramid miles high surrounded by unimaginable horrors. In the darkness beyond stand the Watchers, enormous entities that have surrounded the pyramid for countless millennia, motionless, patient, waiting for the earth current that powers humanity's final fortress to fail. What makes the Nightland uniquely disturbing is its cosmic timescale. Humanity has survived for millions of years after the death of the sun, but only by becoming something barely recognizable as human. Communication happens through telepathy. Reproduction is mechanical. Emotions are distant memories preserved in ancient texts. The horror deepens with the revelation that extinction would be mercy. The Nightland doesn't kill. It transforms, it preserves, it waits. The Watchers have stood sentinel for geological epochs, patient beyond comprehension because time means nothing to them. And sometimes the machines of the last redoubt receive signals, telepathic cries for help from other humans, survivors of forgotten outposts, somehow alive in the darkness, hunted by things that were never meant to exist. In the Nightland, hope itself becomes torture, the desperate belief that something better must exist, somewhere beyond the eternal night, when all evidence suggests otherwise. Sunless sea, fallen London. London has fallen, not to invasion or decay, but to theft. Stolen by bats and dragged beneath the earth into a vast cavern called the Neath, where the sun never rises and death itself has become negotiable. The Untersee stretches into blackness, an underground ocean where direction itself is malleable. Ships navigate by nightmares, false stars glimmer overhead, islands appear and disappear according to laws no sailor fully understands. What makes this universe uniquely disturbing is its economy of the impossible. Everything has its price, but payment is rarely in coin. Memories can be bottled and sold. Years of life can be gambled away. Dreams are harvested. Stories are currency. Even death can be bargained with, though the terms are never in your favor. The gods of this world aren't benevolent or even malevolent. They're utterly alien in their desires and judgments. The bazaar collects love stories for purposes unknown. Stone pigs feast on time itself. The Dawn Machine attempts to impose false natural law, driving those who gaze upon it to ecstatic, violent worship. But the most profound horror of the Neath is how quickly humanity adapts to it. People build lives in the darkness. They fall in love, have children, forget what sunlight felt like, forget what they lost. They make accommodations with monsters and bargain with entities that should not be. In Fallen London, the true victory of darkness isn't that it conquers, it's that we learn to call it home.
Subscribe for more interesting stuff. Tell us your experience in the comments.